Let me ask you, have you been in that moment when someone says something offensive, insensitive, or harmful? Maybe even racist, ableist, or sexist? You know something is off, and you want to say something, but for whatever reason, you don't. That silent, awkward lingers, someone changes the subject, and just like that, the moment passes. The moment when active allyship becomes passive, and intervention is outweighed by fear and personal comfort. I know because I've been in those moments. Matter of fact, from 3 different vantage points. One, when I was the person harmed. 2, when I inflicted harm on someone else. And 3, when I sat back and did nothing as someone else was harmed. If you've been on a receiving end like me, you know it's not just one slip up or microaggression. It's a lifetime of battling and wrestling with my inner thoughts. Should I say something? But if I do, it needs to be gentle. If I don't say anything, it'll just keep happening. But then they might think I'm too sensitive. Forget it. It's exhausting. And worse, each uninterrupted silent moment sends a message, you're on your own, or that's not my problem. This message was clear to me on a virtual meeting. It's a Tuesday afternoon. This is my 4th meeting back-to-back, so I'm running late. I log into Zoom, and I immediately switch to gallery view so I can see everyone. So it's me, 2 of my colleagues, my supervisor, and 2 other people I don't know. A cool feature on Zoom is the ability to add your pronouns to your avatar. Mine read, Angie, pronouns they, them, in parentheses. I see some other folks had added pronouns too, and this felt good, just knowing that they'd made a conscious choice to identify pronouns as important. Cool. I felt good. I felt comfortable. So I go to the chat and I type a quick apology for being late and offer to help design a flyer for an event that we're all co-planning, promising a draft by the next day. Someone from our meeting goes and paraphrases my comment out loud. Oh, looks like Angie offered her graphic design skills and said that she'll have a draft ready by tomorrow. She even apologized for being late. That was very sweet of her. No problem. Thanks, Angie. Immediately, there was awkward silence, a heavy pause, visible discomfort, even some shifting in seats. I wait. I scan the Zoom boxes, wondering if anyone noticed what happened or would say something, even a gentle correction. Nothing, not a word. The moment hung in the air, someone changed the subject, and the meeting proceeded with business as usual. And this hurt. I mean, being misgendered is one thing, and of course, people make mistakes, which I completely understand. But an uncorrected mistake sends a message that I don't matter in that moment. As mentioned before, I'm not perfect, and I've dealt with harm that I've caused someone else. I'll never forget an interaction I had where I passed judgment on someone, which turned out to be the most humbling experience of my life. My friend and I were in a parking lot at a mall, so we're backing out of the parking space. Windows are rolled down, the wind is blowing, music is jamming, we're vibing. So we're backing out of this space, and this car comes speeding down the aisle. I honk my horn, but the driver doesn't see us. My friend yells out the window, "Watch out!" Our cars come with inches of each other, and thankfully there was no impact. Now, despite the fact that everyone is safe, immediate road rage follows, and my friend and I just start yelling at the other driver. I'm talking all the insults you could ever imagine are coming out. And I get a closer look at the driver. The person starts speaking to me in sign language. my mouth drops. I notice what's happening. The other driver is deaf or hard of hearing, which is probably why they didn't hear me honking my horn or us yelling at them. I'm shocked. I'm sitting there in shame and embarrassment, literally speechless. I give this awkward, apologetic wave as we drive off with our tails tucked between our legs. Reflecting on this experience later that day and processing it with my friend, I realized that my ability privilege showed out. And I made a lot of assumptions about that driver. This experience really activated my social justice journey. I went on to learn American Sign Language. I found interest in deaf culture. And most importantly, I started understanding and learning more about my privileges and how I show up in the world as a temporary able-bodied person, which inspired me to use it to advocate for others in ways that are meaningful. Circling back to awkward silences and not knowing what to do, I was that person that froze in the moment. I remember being a participant in a workshop, and the facilitator was using a handheld microphone to welcome everyone. The person then passes the mic around to other participants to introduce themselves. One person says, I don't need a mic. I have a pretty loud voice and I can project. The person sets the mic down and proceeds to introduce themselves. I noticed a person in the back of the room leaning forward and squinting their eyes, whispering to the neighbor, I can't really hear. 2 more participants spoke after that, and the introductions continued without a microphone. I felt bad for that person. And I knew I should have spoken up. I wanted to say something. I really did. I didn't know what to say or how to address the situation. And thinking more about it, I admitted to myself that I was selfish in that moment because all I can think about was how to preserve my fear of speaking up. Because maintaining the status quo and social norms of politeness, it's easier. Why do we fear saying things that may be perceived as controversial when, in actuality, the controversy already happened? We're just simply naming it at that point. Psychologists call this the bystander effect. The more people are around to witness harmful behavior, the less likely it'll be addressed. People often look around, hoping that somebody else will step in, and only about 60% of people actually intervene when there's more than one person around. I've been there, and knowing what to say, how to say it, when to intervene, it's not easy. Here's the thing. I work in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and the folks in that Zoom meeting were all self-identified allies. But it's not enough to call ourselves allies, to wear the pin, to go to the training, display the placard, post on social media, or even add pronouns to our email signatures. Authentic allyship moves beyond perception to meaningful action. And while dismantling systems of oppression and barriers to access are vital to social justice, it's the things in our control on a day-to-day basis that truly make a difference, like the opportunity I had to advocate on behalf of someone else, or the opportunity someone else had to step in for me. If we claim allyship over here and stand behind certain ideologies and movements, yet remain neutral in real-life situations of harm, then it's simply performative. And nobody wants to perform. Well, unless you're like me and you love to dance. Look, I'm challenging everyone, including myself, to call our own bluff when we claim to be allies or supporters of marginalized communities by ensuring that our actions align with what we say truly matters. Look, most people are good people and have good intentions, but it can't stop there. We have to move away from allyship as a title or an identity and focus more on the action behind it. And I recognize the action is the hardest part. But the key ingredient here is courage. It takes courage to act in those fearful moments, to disrupt the harm instead of leaving it for someone else. And most importantly, to say the hard thing and do the hard thing when it matters the most. Whew. If you're feeling a little amped up and maybe inspired and thinking to yourself, like, okay, yeah, I can do that. But wait, how do I do it? Don't worry, I got you. First, notice what's happening in those silent moments and ask yourself, am I really showing up or hoping to be perceived as someone who would? In that meeting, I thought my intentions were good enough. I mean, I wanted to say something, I really did. But in that moment, my actions didn't align with my values. I wish for situations like that to never happen, and for myself and others to demand accessibility in those moments. I'm sure that person would have felt seen and considered had I said something like, look, I know most of us can probably project our voices, but that still may not be accessible for everyone, so let's just continue using a microphone just to make sure that everyone can hear as clearly as possible. I guarantee you that person would have felt a heavy weight lifted off their shoulders. Second, practice your intervention muscles. If you're a fan of working out, you know it takes repetition and strengthening to build. So treat courage like a muscle and train it to act in fearful moments. I dream of a world where the moment I'm misgendered, someone says, hey, quick correction, Angie uses they, them pronouns. That's it. Do you know how life-changing that would be? To be seen for who I am and not by the assumptions that people make. And before I ruffle any feathers, I just want to be clear that it's not only about pronouns. I'm using this as an example because it's my experience. But I'm sure most of you, if not all, have experienced some type of harm or witnessed someone else being mistreated, which an active intervention muscle would be impactful here. And third, leaders and those with privilege set the expectation and model courage. I once saw a director pause our meeting after an ageist comment was made and said, real quick, I want to remind us all that we value humanity here, and a comment like that could have been offensive to an older person. Not only did that ground our team and refocus our values, but it helped to shape the culture that we were trying to build. Let's fantasize. What if each of us promised ourselves, you know what? The next time harm happens in my presence, I'll treat it like it matters, even if it is uncomfortable. What if we decided that courage in the moment matters more than personal comfort? Imagine every team, every classroom, every friendship had that norm where silence is the rare exception and speaking up is the norm. Many of us avoid speaking up because we fear of being perceived as too sensitive or complaining or derailing the conversation, questioning those in power. And sometimes we just don't know what to say or how to say it. All are valid. But I look forward to the day where judgment is cast upon those who are silent. And those who don't speak up are given a side eye like, By calling our own bluff on the things that we say we care about, we can make courage contagious. And if it can be transmitted through the air, this will be the rare exception where I would encourage everyone to cough on each other. Spread courageous germs, y'all. But seriously, let's build it together, one intervention at a time. And when you feel yourself shying away from those moments, speak up, even if your voice shakes and your heart is pounding. Make courage your daily practice by saying the hard things and doing the hard things. It's time to move from passive allyship to courageous, active intervention in the moments that count. Let's go.